When I think of the vision I have for my lovely community, anyone who is going to be tapping into their functional adulthood, whether you move into enlightenment or not, whether you are a 5D mystic or just functional adult, I see the beauty of people's understanding of what it means to be a person. And so that ability to know that our mammalian heritage is for us to not twitch our nose at being ourselves, but for us to actually be able and one, know that feelings such as envy, shame, disgust, all feelings, they all have purposes. The shame one is actually the hardest one for people to identify because it begins at an age where they're not thinking, and that's that shame defectiveness. So for them, they have a problem making mistakes. They have a problem admitting mistakes. They have a problem correcting them. I'm not really sure about that, but here, Sadhguru, once you have no problem making mistakes, admitting them, and correcting them, hardly any mistakes will happen. So when you're a love button person, meaning you don't know no shame, and that's about being imperfect, you actually live a very easygoing life, which is why you're always wondering, why do people not know that they can be themselves? So number one, the red flag is if you twitch your nose. At your 0 to 1 year of age, only your right brain hemisphere is online, and that is actually where implicit memory will come up, and that's actually also where your attachment system is. And if you're not getting the 1/3 attunement in the repair and rupture, you will not necessarily have a secure attachment. So you will have an attachment wound. The 0 to 1 is your attached panicky charge state, and that means that when you are approached by compassionate eyes, you will not necessarily be happy of what comes up. It all depends. And then it depends what type of relationship you have with the emotions that arise. And then it also depends on a lot of your past experiences and what you've decided to think, from your left mode, the chit-chatter brain, because the right is actually where all the emotions and sensations and aspects come up, and the corpus callosum connects your left and right mode, but the left is the one that chit-chats. In fact, neuroscience studies have shown when in the past they had to cut the corpus callosum, that a person will see, for example, they gave one person a picture, one hand had a hammer, one hand had a saw. Whichever eye spoke to the right saw the saw, and then the other saw the hammer, and basically what words would come out is only the hand with the hammer, because your left mode is the verbal part. So they are separate. And they speak separate languages, but it is you with semantics, mind, body, once you achieve your inner well-being. So again, the wish for my lovely community is always to know that being yourself is awesome. And if there's a feeling of not awesomeness, then there's more beneath the surface. The body remembers what the mind forgets. Now, that reverse engineering of what you uncover, it all depends on your own ability to sit with yourself in compassion and with humanity. So here's where, as a mystic, when I see people talking about their oversoul and they talk about soul contracts and karmics, or they talk about canceling, or here, your time is precious, don't waste it on someone who doesn't realize you are too. This type of sentence is a teenager talking. And that's what we see. Teenager, why teenager? Because your oldest and last charged state, or charged part is what they're called, is the fight 14, 15, 16, who will spite the parents and spite the system and spite, and I was a teenager, I remember. They were all like, I was like, I want to be a part of the system to make a difference. And that's to help the entire human race, not just one side of the globe. It is one globe and it is round. 5D mystics know it's round. We don't fall for the traditional cults or the culty cults. The ethical cults we enjoy, but we don't become a part of any cult because we are part of the human species cult, if anything. So we're all awesome, and then we all have different walks of life. And when you don't twitch your nose at being yourself, and you know that everybody makes mistakes, you also know something deeper, which is where Peter Levine, when healthy aggression is thwarted, then we have anger. When anger is thwarted, not permitted, then we get hostility. There are a lot of different lovely psychoeducators that explain why people get nasty. So you may hear from Sadhguru relationships are about someone, love is your nature, but you don't know what that means. I know what it means. Love is your nature because you, as I, will all have had 1 second, even just 1 millisecond. Detachment researchers, they all have said this so far, at least from what they've found. There's Diane Heller, Peter Levine, Bezel van der Kolk, who else was it? Daniel Siegel, and he's actually coming out with a book soon. Ruth Lanius, Janina Fisher, a bunch of different types of therapists. They're all licensed, and I don't remember all titles. That's my brain doesn't do good with data. But long story short, we all will have had a moment of this restorative embodied self where everything's going to be okay. So when you hear about Sadhguru and he says grace, and there's one quote, I don't have it handy, but anytime he says grace, I know that what he's talking about is this feeling that was described to me in my courses, the informed trauma and somatics one, about this, it's all going to be okay. And plus I know the feeling as a 5D mystic and somebody who did begin my life with lovely Jesus and God. And I've moved beyond the concept of it, not because it doesn't hold truth. No, it does, but in the essence of life and love that every person is. So in the energetic sphere, in the way that I can contemplate, not as something that I can hold, because there's nothing to hold. So anybody who wants to use their imagination, by the way, which is why for a 5D mystic, when somebody says, you can't say this, you can't bring together physics and spirituality, seriously, okay, I just did one, so you're really like pointing out something. I'm not sure how to handle you right now. No, I know how, which is going to be silence, because what do 2-year-olds want? And they're not 2-year-olds anymore. No, they're grown-ups, but they still want the same thing. You know, I'm going to share the story. I loved this story. I was in an airport, and I had a lady who was chit-chatting with me. I'm not a parent, and I don't plan on being one. And the lady with her daughter, she was trying to have a grown-up conversation. You could tell she was really into the conversation. The daughter, not so much. In fact, so much so she's like, Mommy, when is the lady leaving? And of course the mom's like, oh shoot, she's being rude. And I'm like, it's okay. I know other people with children. I totally know how children get, and that's normal because they're 2-year-olds. They want your attention. In fact, any one of the people, when they were growing their children, was like, they're on the phone. As soon as they got on the phone, as soon as they're on the phone, those kids are on it, because they want that attention. So long story short, at a certain point, I think the lady turns to me, no, the child turns to me, and she's like, can you leave, or something like that. So when we meet 2-year-olds, which would be anybody who doesn't recognize what they just spoke out of their mouth, and that's because they're not actually there to participate in a shared experience. They're not enjoying their moment, no. So adaptive children, the emotionally immature and insecure person, putting to the side all of the trauma and attachment stuff for a minute. Because see, I have a lot of compassion, but as Patrick Teahan points out, hurt people can actually recognize they can go do work. People who look at children who are getting coddled and actually feel awful could understand, I can go seek something. But this is the part, people, instead of understanding it humanly speaking, they use memes of, oh, we're going soft. They make jokes about us becoming more humane. They don't know what they're talking about when you see a lot of things, because if they did, they wouldn't make the joke, we're going soft. We're not going soft. We're learning more about what it means to be human, and that's because we're learning how to engage in our mammalian heritage, which is our ventral vagal nervous system state. But that can only be active if you're actually moved into your restorative embodied self, and if you are a person who moves into compassion. A lot of different things and topics that I know some of you are following and some might not. Just reach out. But I talk about all of these and more in the episodes. The point that I'm trying to get at, though, is if you don't recognize that you twitching your nose at you and humanity and everything that is related is an indication that you're the one who's having a feeling, not the other way around. And there is an explanation. It is not evil, and it ain't the devil, and it ain't no demon. No, it's actually called a shame defectiveness button, which has a reason, and it's not because anybody did it on purpose to have unresolved trauma or attachment wounds. But hey, let's go do the stories, shall we, of the 4D collective, and let's cancel people, and let's do a lot of other stuff that is like the movies, and not the community of IHP. So I know I switched back and forth. I might make another one, but tune in if you want more, and have a great day.